Hi, I'm Cin Von Quinzel, a plus-size cosplayer, a self-taught costume designer and maker. With 9 years of experience and a lot of trial and error, I'd like to present to you my panel, The Art of Spandex Cosplays. I wanted to begin by talking about spandex fabrics because when I started cosplaying, wanting to dress up as some of my favorite comic book characters, the options were limited. Either the character did not have a costume available or the ones that were available did not come in my size. Spandex was the first material I decided to use, and it was very difficult. It took me a long time to learn, understand, and eventually expert. That's why I'd like to share the knowledge with you. Now I'd like to share some of the materials, techniques, and patterns that I've used over the years that have helped me, and I hope will help you. The first thing I'd like to talk to you about is patterns. So I'm going to start with the bodysuit patterns. And I think they can be unisex. I've seen them made unisex, so I will stick to that for these specifically. First, we have the Quick Sew K2962. This is one of my favorite bodysuit patterns. I would highly recommend it. And it comes in a size extra small to extra large, but we will talk about increasing sizes in a little bit. The second pattern that I highly recommend is also from Quick Sew. It is the K3502. And this is also a bodysuit, but the difference is this pattern has a high neck and includes a small collar piece. It also has sleeves that can be adjusted from short, medium, and long. And if you're someone who enjoys a Sailor Scout pattern, it does include a skirt. The next one is less of a bodysuit, and it is a two-piece. I just wanted to throw it in there as a recommendation. It's also a Quick Sew pattern. It's K3239. Also goes from extra small to extra large, but we will take care of those sizings in a little bit. This one has a long tank, some shorts, a bralette kind of pattern, a triangle. It has like 6 different options. Feel free to check them out. Now, the first 3 are my favorite patterns, the ones I would highly recommend. I will be sharing a different pattern now, just in case you're looking to get one and not have to get multiple, but kind of still get the same idea. And with this, you will be helping out a cosplayer. This is the McCall's Costumes M7455, and it is created by Yaya Han. This also has the Sailor Scout look, as you can see. The pattern is a spandex pattern. It is the full bodysuit, and you get all of the details that you would get with the other ones. It's just a tad bit different. So if it's something that you'd like to try out, this is also an option. Next, I would like to talk about cat suits. There's going to be a pattern here, other than the obvious patterns, because it's a Quick Sew again. And I'm sorry, I'm not sponsored or nothing, I promise. But this was my very first catsuit pattern, and it is not perfect, but none of these patterns are, because everybody's body is built different, and we will discuss that too. But for now, this is the catsuit pattern from Quick Sew. It is K3052. It also comes in the same range of sizes, extra small through extra large. There's that one. Now, we will get into 2 cosplay patterns. And one of them is the McCall's Yaya Han bodysuit pattern, which I think is a good pattern. It's a bit structured differently, and you can see the seams on the side and the underbust. It does go by your cup size, but if you're too large of a cup size for this, you will have to adjust those, of course. And it does turn into a bodysuit too. You can remove the legs because there are seams right at the legs also. That's Yaya Han. Last, for the women's bodysuit patterns, I have one from Simplicity, and it is by Riddle, the cosplayer, and it is number 8286. This one's similar to Yaya Han's, has the seams on the side, on the middle bust and the side, and the collar. There is no bust seam, and it can be turned into a bodysuit. I think this pattern was done very well for spandex that has a 2-way stretch. We will get into the different kinds of spandexes, but this pattern specifically tends to work very well with 2-way stretch spandexes. Next, I would like to speak about male patterns. They seem to be more difficult to find, but here are my recommendations. A Quick Sew Quick Sew number 1727 is a male pattern that includes a tank top, leggings or tights, and biker shorts. There's a bit of variety, 4 different styles, and I would highly recommend it. Every suit that I've made for males usually starts with this, and they all fit. Next up, we have another male pattern, which is a singlet. I like to use this as the top to a cat suit while using the Quick Sew leggings as the bottom. Let me explain. The Jolly singlet pattern, number 2912, is what I like to use for the top of a male cat suit or bodysuit while using the leggings from the Quick Sew pattern. There are 2 differences between these patterns. The Jolly one had to be printed and taped together, unlike the Quick Sew one where the pattern is available to you and it comes with the paper and you unravel it yourself and you cut it from there. The Jolly one you have to print out however the file tells you to and stick it together yourself. No matter what, you still get a pattern at the end of it. The process is just a little different. Last up is a pattern that I've only used once. It is another male catsuit pattern, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. It's another McCall's Yayahan pattern, and it is number M7340, and this size is the 46 to 52. They seem to go to a pretty wide range. It is a spandex catsuit pattern made for males. Like the woman's pattern, the seams are a bit different than the others. The seams go inward towards the collar, and there are ones going down the side. It is not my preference, to be honest, but it is something different and mostly depends on your project. Now I'd like to get into the different spandex fabrics that there are. I'm going to start with the simple ones. These are basic spandex. They usually range from $8 to $10 a yard, and they are not too see-through. Depends on the color that you get. This is the shiny version. There are the matte versions, and they are all available on the websites that I will talk about in a little bit. As you can see, it's a nice thickness. It stretches very well. It says a 4-way stretch specifically, and they come in various different colors. Next is very similar to this, except it's thicker. And these are what athletic fabrics are made out of, football shorts and such. They stretch, not as much because it is a tighter knit and a tighter fit. I would highly recommend these, even though they do charge up to $15, $16, even $20 a yard, depending on the color and style. Now I will get into some of the design options. These are metallic spandexes that are 4-way stretch. They have solid backs. This is the gold. You can see the shine on top of the yellow mustard. The stretch is pretty well, and over time it might crack, but that depends on what you're doing with your costume and all that jazz. I've had both of these fabrics for over 2 to 3 years, and there isn't too much crack in them, which is pretty good. But that's one of your options when it comes to designs. These are the metallic options. There's also metallic with like small designed holes. Still a 4-way stretch, just not as much stretch as the other two. And this one can crack also. This design specifically cracks more than the other two. Any spandex that you decide to use mostly depends on your project or what you have available to you. This one is also a metallic, except with the 4-way stretch, it's guaranteed not to crack because the metallic parts are tiny little dots. That's just an option that's available at my store. The sheen is beautiful, and you still get the same effect as the other metallics, but less chance of cracking. A much different and thicker option is neoprene. This is what scuba gear is made out of, and it comes in different types and thicknesses. This one itself has dots on one side and is solid on the other. It's very similar to the red one, just with a different design. They both are squishy, which may be difficult to see, but they're squishy, unlike this one. They all have 4-way stretch. This one stretches far less. This I would recommend something for like the riddle pattern for, because it stretches but doesn't have too much, and I think her pattern would be very suitable for this. It's very dense compared to the other ones, and there's not much squish or air in between. I will hopefully have a picture that will show the difference. Next, I'd like to talk about the see-through and netted fabrics. A lot of the time, these are either made as small detailed parts or underneath swimsuits, whatever may make you more comfortable. They come in many different options and sheens for detailing. Along with those kind of details can come another netted option, just very holey-like. And it also has a 4-way stretch for this. Or lace. Lace spandex is a thing too. And also has a 4-way stretch. Now to finish off the different spandexes, I would like to talk about vinyls and fake leathers. These specifically are 4-way stretch. This is a fake leather that also has a print or a texture to it. And these are solid vinyls that come in numerous different colors that are also 4-way stretch. But not every spandex is a 4-way stretch. Sometimes they are too. Sometimes they even have the white backings when they are, if they're not a white spandex. This one is the fake leather. As you can see, no stretch in that direction, but it does stretch a pretty good degree in this. And the same thing goes for the vinyl. This way it does stretch, this way it doesn't. Depending on your project and depending on your pattern will depend if you're able to use a 4-way and a 2-way or only a 4-way spandex. Now that we talked about the patterns and the spandex itself, there's something I want to emphasize on. When you're working with spandex fabrics, you have to use a zigzag stitch. Because if you use a regular straight stitch, it will not stretch and your seams will burst. With zigzag stitches, that is what keeps your fabric together and mended. So this is the specific stitches for the machine that I own. The straight stitches in the front, as commonly used. The zigzags are the next one, and then all decorative stitches after that. I only want to speak about the straight stitches and the zigzag, but especially the zigzag stitch. Mine comes with 3 different kinds, and yours might not, and that is alright. Number 5 is my zigzag stitch, and I can control the width and the height of mine. If you do not have that option, that is alright too. As long as a zigzag stitch is used with your spandex fabric, you will be a-okay. Now, I will be honest, I use the straight stitch at its widest form when I need to base stitch things. Not as my final stitch, that will always be the zigzag, but let's say I wanted to put these 2 spandexes together. And before I zigzagged them, I just wanted to make sure that they stood together. So I would do a straight stitch at its widest form, and then I would zigzag right over that. It would secure it a little bit more, at least in my preference. Now, you have your pattern, you have your fabric, you got your machine, and your straight stitch is available. I'm going to talk about the few things that I think are helpful or useful when you're first beginning to sew in general, but especially spandex. First, of course, scissors. You gotta cut your pattern. There are many different options for scissors. It all depends on what you prefer. This is the general scissor. This one's a tad bit different, but I find it useful. You unhook it, and all you got to do is press down. And then if you have a mat, you're able to use your rotoring tool. Something I think is a bit handy that I didn't have for a long time is fabric weights. And I don't use fabric weights. I use these tiny little rocks my little sister gave me that she painted herself. Keeps a little bit of originality and inspiration in my projects. Of course, pins. Got to keep the fabric together somehow. Pins are one option, and now clips are too. I find them to be very helpful, and it took me a long time to start using them, but I would recommend. Along with the ballpoint needle, I would recommend the non-stick foot. Get one that fits your machine. It is usually a plastic foot, and it glides over your spandex, and especially your textured ones, far better than most of the foots that come with your machine. Non-stick foot, highly recommend. Now when it comes to finishing up your spandex outfits, there are many different options. One is elastic. It's great for leg holes and sometimes even armholes. They come in many different thicknesses. Even can be used as waistbands if you're making some pants. There's also fold over elastic or satin elastic. A lot of the times these are made as pretty trims or decoration. It all depends on your project. You can also finish the edge of some spandex with more spandex. That's what I like to use the metallic ones or designed ones a lot for. It goes really well as a bias tape around each hole. If you'd like a little more structure, there are options like plastic bonings or zip ties. They're very easy to use, very flexible. They keep a lot of things upright. If you are larger like me, sometimes I use some steel boning, the things that they use for corsets. I find them to be very helpful. I know it sounds a little strange, but it works. Now, if you'd like to add any graphic designs or other pieces of spandex to the top of whatever you're creating, there's something called heat and bond. It is great, and the purple one is sewable. So you will iron your spandex to the paper provided, and then once it's ironed, you can peel off the back and stick this to any other fabric. Iron that down and then just sew the edges. Zigzag stitch it like you would do anything else, and then you have a permanent hold, and it still stretches. Now to finish this up, I would like to show you a few examples of the different spandexes and ways that I've used them. This is a cat suit of mine that was made out of the Quinzel pattern that I showed you. It has long sleeves, and the pink is the basic spandex, the one that I got for $9 a yard, and it worked very well. It was the perfect color I needed. You can see the trim here is the silver, very similar to this one. It is metallic, and then this yellowy orangey color is the more expensive spandex, the thicker one. I think you can see the difference, how it bulks up in the lines here. I really wanted that effect, and only the thicker spandex would be able to give it to me. The thinner spandex could not do that because it's just not made for that. This specific suit does have a collar on top made out of the same thicker spandex and a zipper in the back. This one's a little older, so the zipper's a little wonky, but it does the job. I've had this suit for about 3 years now, maybe 4, and it's still in great condition. Good quality spandex and a lot of zigzag stitches. Spandex can be made and used for many things, even a jacket. When I found myself needing a black canary jacket but not finding one in my size, I was able to take some of the two-way stretch blue fake leather spandex, line it with some black neoprene, which is the scuba type of spandex, and it gives a perfect little comic book puff to it that you wouldn't get for most materials. Now, the last thing I would like to show you is a bodysuit made out of black vinyl. So it has a stretch in both directions, a perfect fit, a zipper in the front and the back, as you can see, much straighter than the other one. But also, there is steel boning in this one. I chose steel so that it would keep it upright for myself and my size, and I found it worked very, very well, to the point where sometimes I don't need a bra, which is awesome. It has the perfect amount of stretch, and it actually is a bunny suit pattern, but we will get into that another time. I want to thank you all for watching my panel, The Art of Spandex Cosplays. I hope that you learned something, any beginner's tips or tricks, and a way that you can start your own cosplay journey. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section, or feel free to contact me on my social medias at the bottom. I would like to give a special thank you to Inbeoncon for having me a part of their convention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.